Hello everyone, welcome back to the last Myojin of the Champions of Kamigawa set from Magic the Gathering. This commander review is about Myojin of Seeing Winds, who is a legendary spirit. It's a 3/3, probably the weakest of all the Myojin, as far as power and toughness. Ability is a whole other story, so it has a whopping 10 mana value, 7 generic, and 3 blue. So probably the most expensive of all the Myojin. And then like all the Myojin, they have this restriction that is going to make it difficult to build around, but once you build around it, then you can go any way you want, really. So Myojin of Seeing Winds enters with a divinity counter on it if you cast it from your hand specifically. So either get it into your hand from the command zone or put divinity counters on it after you've cast it. Once you've done this, Myojin of Seeing Winds has indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter on it. Great form of protection. And then finally, by removing a divinity counter from Myojin of Seeing Winds, draw a card for each permanent you control. Which is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Holy cow, that's absolutely absurd. And very, very powerful. I can't wait to talk about this card. This is probably the most powerful of all the Myojin in this set. Maybe of all of the Myojin that exist. We'll have to wait till like Neon Dynasty to talk about the other Myojin, but this one is absurdly powerful. No card rulings, you're just going to draw a ton of cards. That which was taken, like all the Myojin, this is probably the best way to get divinity counters on any of the Myojin in any color, because it is an artifact, it can go in all of the decks. And like most of the Myojin, the decks that I am building around for these cards are mostly Planeswalker decks because of that proliferation mechanic. I want to be able to proliferate the divinity counters as much as possible, as well as proliferating the loyalty on all of my Planeswalkers, so it kind of fits there. And we do have some help from some new cards from Ether Drift, and we may have some new cards from Dragonstorm Tarkir. I don't remember if there's a ton of proliferation stuff in that set. I don't think there is. But there are some great cards in Tarkir coming out anyway, so you'll probably find something cool to put in this deck. But this is a Planeswalker focused deck because of proliferating those divinity counters. A popular deck idea on EDH Rec, I was a little confused at this, at like why this was the case, and I think it really boils down to your commander, but this is a bounce strategy where you're trying to bounce things to their owner's hands. But one of the highest used cards for this deck was Crystal Shard, which makes me to believe that this is a self-bounce deck where you want to bounce the Myojin, cast it so it gets another divinity counter on it, and then use it to draw more bounce spells to then bounce the Myojin back to your hand, play it again, get a divinity counter, and rinse and repeat, which I think is cool. If it were me though, I would just build a proliferate strategy so then I don't have to spend 7 mana or 10 mana, sorry, 10 mana every time just so I can draw a ton of cards, and then have to do it again. Like, I would rather just proliferate it with it on the battlefield with cheaper spells and then still draw a ton of cards, you know what I mean? So I think this is supposed to be some sort of a blend of you bounce the Myojin back to your hand as a form of protection / as a form of be able to play it again so you can do the shenanigans. Also, you bounce your opponent's stuff so that way you can win the game. That's also your win condition. It seemed a little weird to me, but this was a popular deck idea on EDH Rec. So, and lastly, I thought it would be interesting if we just went full crazy. If you are building this with the proliferation strategy so you can draw cards over and over and over and over again, then unless you have a way to get no maximum hand size, you're going to have to discard at the end of your turn, and you could be discarding a lot of cards. So why not take advantage of that by building a Discard Matters deck, which I'm kind of obsessed with right now. And I think Ether Drift also pushed me in that direction right now because of the discard sub-theme that's in that set. So Discard Matters, you can do things with cycling, you can do things with just generic Discard Matters cards, and I think this would be a lot of fun to build around. It's a definitely crazy, weird strategy to build around, but I think it'd be a lot of fun, and you can do some crazy shenanigans. You can, obviously, if you want to go full crazy with this commander, in any of these deck ideas you build, you could do something as silly as a Thassa's Oracle win, a Lab Maniac win, the Jace that lets you win when you have no cards in your library and just draw your deck over and over and over again. And one of the other things I want to say for this commander specifically is this could be a interesting, again, if you have multiple ways to proliferate the counters, this could be an interesting commander to do like an Oops All Spells deck, where you get the Myojin out, and you have something like Omniscience out, or some other way to like play spells for free. Omniscience is probably the best example, because it literally lets you play any spell for free, and it's also in blue. But if you could get Omniscience and the Myojin into play, and use the Myojin, then you pretty much could just Oops All Spells win the game right then and there, because if you can have the Myojin in play, proliferate it at least once or twice, and then play your Omniscience on the next turn, then all you have to do is use one of those tokens, leaving another one on there, use one of those tokens, draw a ton of cards. You should be drawing into more proliferation spells. You play them for free because of your Omniscience. Then you use the Divinity counter again, draw a ton more cards, play more spells for free, maybe put more permanents down so you draw even more cards, and then you win with like a Thassa's Oracle. This is probably the most powerful of the Myojin because it just can synergize so well with so many different cards, especially ones that let you play cards for free, like Omniscience. So really cool card, really cool commander, and again, this deck idea focusing on the discard, I think would just be a funny, janky build-around where you're just kind of like mono-blue suicide deck, where you're like drawing your whole deck out as fast as you can, and then when you discard all your cards, you get these crazy cool effects. And maybe you have graveyard synergies where you play things from the graveyard to do other crazy shenanigans. Really cool idea. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. But that's going to do it for the Myojin of Seeing Winds. Really popular card to build around. Again, this is probably the most powerful of all the Myojin. So people have built various different deck ideas around this. Mill, self-mill, draw matters, draw go, counter. I mean, you name it, it's got it in blue. So very popular commander to build around. So it does have the rank of S because, again, there are so many different deck ideas. You can take this that exist online that you can easily find and build around. However, I'm sure there are plenty others out there. You could probably build, like I talked about in the last video with the Myojin of Knight's Reach, you could probably build a modular / amass deck in blue doing the same shenanigans, and it would be absolutely absurd. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything I missed, if there's any deck ideas or synergies I did not talk about. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!